and this is our pre-conference for his history class. So just start off, before I visit your class, can you catch me up on what you've been doing in class leading up to the class that I'll be visiting tomorrow?
So this is a 9th grade history class, bit of a world history focus. This past week, the students started writing their second analytical paragraph. The topic is on Christianity. The last 2 classes have been in-class work periods where they've had a chance to talk with each other, talk with me, to think about how to structure and come up with a topic sentence. We're really working on how to structure an argument and then how to support it with evidence. So I tell them that these 2 periods are for collaborating, talking to each other about the prompts, thinking about and talking about what evidence would be the best evidence to address the prompts, so that they can then make a decision on which prompt to write on. And then at that point, once they start writing, they have to produce their own work. But so part of it is that they're being collaborative in the sharing of ideas to then strengthen and help them produce their own argument. So when you come tomorrow, they will have written their draft, and they're going to come to class with copies of their drafts, and they're going to be in writing groups. This is their second time in the writing groups, so this is their second time doing peer editing with the same group of people. And so they will do that the second part of class. The very first part, there'll be 2 current events presentations, which is what we do every Friday. And so after the presentations, we'll go to writing groups, and that essentially what we're gonna do tomorrow.
All right, my next question you basically answered, but maybe you could expand a little bit on it. So you already talked about peer editing, but what specifically is the goals for the kids during that peer editing? What will I see the kids doing when they're doing this peer editing part of your class?
So the goals for the peer editing, they are in writing groups, which are intentional, that they've been in these writing groups for 2 assignments so that they can become comfortable, to the extent possible, they are 9th graders, commenting and giving feedback on each other's work. Hopefully, this is their second time doing it. I would hope that they're a little bit more comfortable being critical, really questioning and challenging their peer as to the strength of their argument, the strength of their evidence. Does their topic sentence really state an argument? Is their quotation done properly? Is their conclusion done properly? And that they're comfortable more so with that process. And that would be the goal of that. They will also have my feedback.
Right.
So when they walk out of class, they have a copy of my feedback, which is very detailed, but then they have 2 sets of feedback from their peers as well. And that between the 3, they really have a good base to now produce their final paragraph, which is due next class.
Awesome. Long term, what do you think you hope the students will learn about this specific, or take away from this specific class that you're doing tomorrow?
So long term, it's really supporting the process of writing. Because they're 9th graders, I tell them this year is a year to really work out and figure out what is the best process for them. So by making them peer edit, they can see other people's approach to writing. So sometimes it's great if someone in the group has done the same prompt as them, because they can see exactly how they approached it. I think sometimes it's just as valuable to see how someone approached that prompt that they weren't willing to do, because they couldn't think of how to structure it or how to word it, but they have someone else's approach to it. So that as the course continues, we'll write 1 more of these very small paragraphs, but then we're going to start writing multiple paragraphs and conclude with 2 legitimate essays. And for them as 9th graders, that first essay is 3 pages, that second one is 4 to 5 pages.
Because you're doing peer editing and obviously it's students working with each other, how do you know if the students have learned what you want them to learn, both short term and long term?
So in the short term, the reason why the writing groups are only for 2 assignments is I don't absolutely always know how well it works out for them. So I make them change. When we go to our next writing assignment, I'm going to mix them up. In part, I don't intentionally make the groups, i.e. what I think are my stronger students to my weaker students. It's really just random. So they have it's just random.
Yeah.
So in the short term, there's sometimes not always a way to know for sure that they're getting the best out of the peer editing in terms of the feedback they receive. I think there is a short-term benefit in their own being critical of someone else's work so that they can then be critical of their own work. I think in the long term, by the end of the year, they'll get both benefits. The benefit of when my peer gives me feedback, they actually are giving helpful feedback. And then of course, by that point, it will have definitely reinforced their own being critical, because they're being so critical of someone else's work, they're then better able to be critical of their own work. And since I've started to do more peer editing, the strength of the writing overall has just gotten better faster.
Tomorrow will be a great opportunity, obviously, for me to learn about you as a teacher and what you do with your students. Is there anything particular that you want me to focus on in tomorrow's lesson about you and your teaching and the kids and their work?
So, in terms of the student work first, there will be 2 presentations, maybe 3, 2 or 3. Not sure if that third person's going to be prepared and ready. They are working on doing roughly a 90-second to 120-second oral summary of a written paragraph on a current events presentation, so that they have to become comfortable standing up in front of the class and just giving the information.
Yep.
So you can focus on to what extent you as an outsider coming in for this random spot check, what you see in terms of the confidence that they exude in doing that. In terms of the writing, I would expect, because this is our second time doing it, I would expect and hope that the level of focus and productivity and exchange between them in terms of, hey, I made this comment, do you understand it, will be pretty good. Now, it may not last the entire time, but I think the majority of the time that they're working on each other's work will be focused and productive, given that this is our second time doing it. In terms of me, I would ask you to focus on, so my approach is, they know I have very high expectations, but I still try to be very laid back. And I would love to get your opinion on that balance. That yes, Mr. Bryan has high expectations, he's really pushing us, both in our oral presentations and in our writing, but that it's done in an environment that they don't feel as though the expectations are meant to overwhelm them. But it's really more of a, we're doing this together, and I'm supporting them without them realizing that I'm supporting them, right. Almost.
Right. I know we don't have district goals like public school teachers do, but we do have teaching goals that,
yes.
Annual teaching goals that we try to meet. How does this class help you get or reach your higher goals for teaching this year?
So the emphasis of my teaching every year is on helping students develop their voice. In the 9th grade in particular, it's almost an even balance between their oral, in-class, written speaking voice, along with their analytical written work. Right now, you're coming in where we're just really focusing on the written part, but for the course of the year, my goal is really how to help them and push them to really find their analytical voice. But it's pretty 50-50 split. I say that because if you were to come to my 10th grade class, much more emphasis on the written voice because of the first 3 big, good-sized papers. Then they have a huge research paper. So it's more of a 70-30 for the 10th graders on writing. But my 9th graders, it really is 50-50. And so at this point in the year, to me, the arc of their trajectory is we've spent a good month and a half really on our oral voice, and now we're really starting that trajectory for the written work.
Before I go to class tomorrow, I would love to know more about your class. Is there anything you think that I should know about your class? Maybe a little bit about the dynamic of the group of students that you have?
So yes, this is an interesting group. There are 11 of them, 6 girls, 5 boys. The girls tend to be more contemplative, so that when we're in a discussion, you really see them take it in before they respond. Boys, as tend to be the case with 9th grade boys, I have definitely 1 or 2 who they just shout out. Again, I intentionally create the environment where they should feel encouraged to do that. And if it's a problem, I say you have to hold them, I will speak to someone else. So that's one area. I have one 9th grade boy who I wouldn't say he's immature. I think he's just sometimes unaware. So a good example would be that one day we're in a discussion. He's focused on the discussion. You know he is because he's eye contact with me, his peers, but he has his computer in his lap and he's turning it in his lap at the same time.
Yeah.
So there's that. And then I've had one instance where one of the boys, one of the girls didn't work well in a group. We won't be doing that. They're not in each other's group, and that's again just happened randomly.
Yeah.
But they definitely didn't work well in a group. So that would be something that you won't see tomorrow, but that had you come and they were in different groups and they were working together, I would definitely would have asked you to focus on that. But for the most part, they are overall a pretty contemplative group. My other sections, I throw out a question just to start discussion, and it's a rush to want to get that first word in. They're not like that.
Thank you for allowing me to go into your class tomorrow. I just wanted to finish off the meeting just to go through some logistics. I'm gonna go to your 11:05 class in Shattuck 113. Is there anywhere particularly you want me to sit so I'm not disrupting you or your students tomorrow?
No, so we're in the class is in a U, and they mostly sit on this part of the U with maybe one person on this edge. So this left edge is wide open for you to claim if you want to be more in the U. But if you're more comfortable being outside, I think being outside might be more conspicuous than if you're just.
More sense to use.
Doesn't make absolutely 100% context, but people just stop flipping back and forth and there's
Yeah.
no reason.
Yeah. When I'm talking about uses beliefs though, should I be using present because we're still
Well, if he's talking about these are beliefs from when Jesus was teaching them, that's in the past. But as they exist today, yes, that is a good thing.
I have a question on the citations. If you do the Bible,
Yes, yeah, good. Would you add on the rules and everything?
who's the author of the Bible?
No.
You don't put an author, and then
Yeah, my
revised
citation-
standard version is not part of the title.
So the Bible says it's the Bible translation.
Isn't the Bible, when you're citing it, instead of being in quotations, it's in italicized?
Yes.
Okay, and then it's a period and then still in italics. What the heck
Yes,
is
that's the part of the title,
Yeah.
the title of the Bible, which is important for the Bible.
Wait.
Like King James Version versus the
No,
Bible.
no values,
No, chapter and verse.
but the chapter and verse isn't in the website.
No.
It's in the sections.
For the Bible citing thing, I did it. Do you know if my two that was from, if they're from like this, like the same section? Like one's from 1880, one was from. Just so I'm just gonna have one citation. Oh, but I just have.
But then when you set them,
So commas,
like that, cite the separate page.
is this how you cite the Bible? Did you?
Okay,
Wait, I just got
yeah.
one more question.
So-
Thank you for telling me.
Is it
Luke
going to
22,
Is
is that one accurate?
It really
Do you
is.
have
Like,
yes.
Yes.
No. You guys hold it down.
I mean, it's the exact same thing as you. From like 151. Oh, I don't know. Is that how they do it?
Actually, yeah, literally.
Chapter 5, line 10.
I think verse.
Yeah,
16 at the bottom right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
To
you
the left side, or the top of the page.
Google it. Yeah, just straight up. So you have to write the Bible.
And then, we're not just in the Bibles, italics.
Okay.
It's the top.
Don't just like
Yeah. No, but no commas. What you can do is actually because this is the.
Okay.
Internet's broken.
Wait, I shared mine with you guys, so go look at it. My Google.
So don't forget, if you don't have to use the editing worksheet, but if you want to use this right there, you can comment directly on the paragraphs, your choice.
Oh, I want to just look at mine because my internet's working.
Just comment
So you
directly.
have to read it.
Not only can you
Oh, I have math. Number 1. Dot.
whatever they don't want, they just sign up for them. And I should.
I should share mine with you. Jesus calls.
And I was like, okay. Let me know. I was going to apply to writing about the other one.
I still have to use some of the quotes.
Let me start writing
Yeah.
about that. And then when I did this, I was like, oh, I was like, do you agree? Like that. It's okay, okay, we good.
This is already you happy with the announcement.
You can't just say this.
You can just make comments right on it.
You can't just say
Did
this.
you get your paragraph?
You have to say like this.
No.
Did you get your Judas paragraph?
Oh yeah, okay, well, but we didn't get the Christianity one
Draft.
with the comments on it.
But,
Do you mean?
when's it good?
Tuesday.
Furthermore, the road
Okay, so when do you think I need to get the draft to you? When do you think I need to get my comments to you for me to not move the date?
Not
Today.
Do you mean
Fine,
Christian?
Man,
Why does
Wi-Fi
it-
these days.
Right?
Questions?
It's not academic norms either. Like I can't do
What
homework.
I'm saying
Well,
is,
that's not
Tonight,
because I'm like, your argument is good.
Mine's are all right, mine's are all right.
It's like, Jesus' role.
So are you not gonna be able to?
That what he does.
Okay, what's the worst?
To give them back?
For the Jews,
By 12?
Yeah.
that like
I'm
belongs, that he
There's
died.
I won't
for
make it
that.
in class, I'll make 12.
Yeah, so it does not coincide.
Yeah.
So this is
One more annotation question. If I have two, mine two, the page after each
I don't
other.
mind you asking me, but did you ask someone else first before you asked me?
Yeah, I just want to clarify.
It's like obviously.
So you asked her, she told you the answer, and now you don't trust her?
Do I have to do two? Do I have to do two citations if both of mine are from the same like?
So the requirement is 2 direct quotations, it's not 2 different citations.
It can be one.
So you can use one source to quote twice.
And you're
Yeah,
supposed to
I'm just joking. You're right, by the way.
What?
You're right, by the way, I'm just joking.
Oh, now I'm confused.
I know.
We need time to ask you questions, right?
The ability and opportunity, yes.
So it won't be due till Wednesday.
Let me make that comment.
I have,
You have to.
I was just gonna announce it.
Can I please have my moment?
Yeah. Watch your face.
That's the hand up.
Who you is?
That hand up is just a random thing that we use for our purposes. You can be good.
And then for the work,
That's yours. Are you ready?
I don't mind asking you. You have to ask one of your kids first. If there's still confusion, then you come.
Try not to lose it.
Are we ready to go to the second one, or have you already gone to the second one?
We only have
Yeah, you only have 2. You should have 2.
So we're gonna do like a circle.
Do you not remember? Do you not remember who's in your group?
Who do you have right now? I don't have it. Okay, so do you have yours printed out?
do the elbows.
This is Caroline's.
Section 2, writing group. You are with Miss Sylvia.
Yeah.
Mr. Mouse, just the 2 of you.
Yeah.
Did you? Oh, I forgot you're a 2-person group. Everyone else, thank you, sir. Have you moved on to your second one?
No. Wi-Fi was not.
Okay, that's good. We have plenty of time. You just may have to sacrifice Fun Friday.
No.
No, I'm done, I'm done.
No, do not cut short the editing for Fun Friday. We should be able to get it in.
Fun Friday over grades.
Take 4 more minutes, and then you should have time for the other one, time for me to make my comment, and time for Fun Friday.
Matt, what prompt?
Okay.
I was doing
One
my here
second.
first.
Second. No, I didn't read it yet. I just
Plus, that's what that's my
because I thought most people
No,
did.
I told you, I said, listen, I said, listen, this works. Getting and one of them
Kind of just.
right. It's just like
Comment.
and so.
I'm not gonna write anything else, okay?
And then to add
And so,
that.
and so she, we took her from another corner.
Said.
You get what I'm trying to
Well, we
do.
don't have,
Oh, I got you.
they don't get to ask it till.
He sent you that. Each
Well,
plate.
it was a 13.
Oh, wait.
Wait, so page 39 is the rest.
Or is that
This class.
How did you get that exact citation? Where'd you get the exact citation? From the read. Okay. What can I quote you from page 39?
39C?
Yes.
Then that's not from it.
How do I find my data?
There's all of it.
39.
39C?
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's his one.
The first thing you said the same thing like 3 times in a row. First you said it, then you said the quote, and then you repeated what the quote said. So fix that. Also, you know how many people did it. That's all I have.
Oh, like down, I get it. 196.
Could be a different one.
Yeah, it is.
No, you can't just say so.
You gotta look on it.
No, you can't say so.
Wine, sin, and Okay, let's go.
You'll have no trouble with this.
I don't want to
You have what I said instead, because he said that was.
Oh, so you write these two sentences.
Some of your introductory.
Yeah.
Why are you? Thank you.
You should be moving on to the second one now.
I'm finished.
I'm trying to help you keep pace so that we have time for everything.
Let's go. Use the word. Go ahead.
Okay. The next one.
There wasn't this.
All right.
Do you need mine?
Yeah.
Oh, you do. I thought I printed it out. Oh, you grabbed it from the. Yeah.
I'm just saying. Okay.
Hey.
I would say willingness.
Okay.
Is the hospital's capitalized?
I think it is like,
Yeah.
there's just so many rules.
Oh, yeah, actually, capitalizing, yeah, capitalizing those.
Yeah. It was a way of life. Oh, you could say it was controlling. For when? You said, was it socially or
Are you going today? You going today? Is that thing?
It's just, yeah, you just.
Oh, I like that. Coffee tastes the same.
How are we doing with number 2? We making a good pace?
I'm actually.
You've made it clear that you're finished. I mean everyone else. Okay.
Where's the,
Where's she? Right here.
didn't even read it, probably.
I'll have to look it up.
Bro, he wrote this in 10 minutes.
Is that not?
What? Jack wrote this in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Literally said 3 sentences of
The way they word their questions.
I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, super tight.
Not at 12. It was like 9 o'clock. I woke up at 9. I
ended up taking it out, but I meant to
did
take it
off
out.
for a while.
And you can see.
Yeah.
You can see. Is that what the thing was in this? Yes.
Really?
You should go.
How do you have time to do that?
They're bad.
You just start from
I left there. Not good. It was just me that is there.
I didn't write that. He wrote
I'll let you know. It's something that you definitely yeah.
How do you see my
What?
14 hours?
I felt comfortable.
Oh, 3 p.m.
So I went to the
I can't sleep that.
Still small. But it's still. It's part of it.
So weird. Look at this. Look at this. She has her. Don't you find that weird?
It was time. Right, right.
You see that? Does that mean that? It's not that bad.
Where? Yeah. When did you get called?
I don't want lemon. Wait, where do I go?
Wait, I got that. You actually want the way you go.
How I spell first?
So he's getting part two.
Yeah.
Hey, you almost done? Yeah. Did you say comments? Oh, okay.
What did the video
Don't need to
say?
put any
What
more
may
in the third
seem
grade.
and feel a little awkward. It's an analytical
Right.
long
This is an
These cards. Yeah. What?
Oh, you can probably use or something.
Yeah.
It's just basically I make some random connection to the filter. It's super irrelevant.
You feel it's super relevant.
No, I know,
I'm
it
probably
was-
going to critique
It
it.
was really late. I know, I'm just like.
What's the egalitarian principle?
I was kind of confused last night. I don't about good news. What does he have to work on?
Page 32 to 35 is the
Spirituality.
but then if you
Spirit equality.
everything that you
Spirit.
teach you.
No, not
Spiritual.
Social spirit.
Okay, I can find it.
I'm just sexy.
I got my stuff from like 9.
Oh, there are other parts, yes, but there's a part of it called the good news.
Oh, I didn't know that would be so helpful. Yeah.
I read it for class. I mean, I only referenced it that one day, which is good news, blah, blah, blah. But there is a specific
Is it
part.
okay if we talk about forbidden news? I take a lot of classes.
Yeah, that's what the good news was, that Jesus died for the Chinese, what, and there's no have salvation.
I might have to grab it.
Right, that's what the good news was. It's called Good Friday, because he was crucified. It's good, because now people can have salvation.
But if you had this is something.
Is it we need to change how into two
Anxiously. Patiently, I didn't mean anxiously, I meant patiently.
I changed it on here.
Can I stop you in 2 minutes?
Not now. I'll be ready for Fun Friday.
No. Will 2 more minutes be sufficient for people to get through their?
Looking at it.
It's just like, the main thing is, well, I made edits on here, but you need to fix the citation. It has to go. I have no idea. Like, you have the citation, and then you have the, after, you have something after the end.
Oh, really?
The parentheses at the end of that sentence, and then the punctuation goes after the
Yeah,
parentheses.
I'm not sure if my.
Hey, I'm not sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
It's not like a nurse. A good thing. Hey,
I
what's
just
your
use now.
I think I can
Ow. I might not make that. I'll just make
Because I'm not gonna have time. We see me her. She's right out the door. I'm fucking alive.
You can say she's here.
So you talk about that kind of
I have all the ways
And you get pretty soft.
Oh, what your line?
Is this not 11
You don't buy a car with it, you know.
So similar to how Abraham did not.
Oh, yeah, mine is.
Yeah, it ran into you when you got a boost.
And it's
That's it.
10 you wrote in?
I like to cut my meat.
Oh, get rid of all that.
And the cars are seeing you out. You're on the way.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's fine, that's perfect.
You got this.
I'll just go take this.
Why would I make it? You get by a car, you can't just get on the meat. That's not how it works. What do you mean it's not how it works?
We can do it when it runs.
You're getting hit by a car. It's going on and jump off. You know, it's hit by a car. Obviously.
Take one. We have 11 minutes. You have plenty of time. Take 2 more minutes.
Oh, is yours? Yes.
Red. Red light. For these people.
Oh, you have to even read mine, because mine is. Why did you say Mr. Bride? Oh, like the word.
Hey, there's some parts on the cross. On the no thing, that's correct.
If this was a bar, it came in front of me. And my back, my front wheel hit the car. Hit the side of the car.
Oh, so you weren't calling it front of it.
No.
So it was like car, front, beginning, and it was like
The front wheel hit the corner, like the head. Oh, so hit the side of the car and on the front of the car.
Yeah, you guys want to see
So
it?
the car is running, if this, no, if this is a car, right? That's a car, those are the headlights. So my front wheel hit the head. Yeah, because you like, that's when like. I think you're imagining.
I still don't know.
I love you, Mom.
Car would do a lot more damage than just.
Yeah, like this.
What if, like, what if,
You said yes.
It depends on like the hours involved.
I'm the front.
Yeah. The raviolis were good this week.
Yeah, that was really good.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you. I need time to make a comment. And then it looks like we will have time for Fun Friday. Which, since Mr. De Leon is here, he gets to participate also.
Yes.
No.
I'm in. Thanks, buddy.
So, please return your comments in the next 30 seconds.
Mr. Brian, over this weekend, because I think I'm gonna come up with a new sentence, can I just
Yes,
tell you my
of course. Conclusion sentences and topic sentences, you say almost anytime. A whole paragraph. Once I get past the first draft of it, that's a different story.
How do you look and think there's not a car, but then there is where to go?
But that's the point of a broader theme, is making a link between something different and similar.
That's like, I made a connection in my Judaism paragraph, and you said that I need to make the connection clearer, but I thought it was a little difficult to do in just one
You
sentence.
just don't like.
I feel like it's always gonna seem.
Actually,
That's why there's the video that you can go back to and watch the video of the conclusion sentences. It's gonna get loud for Fun Friday. It just does.
So you're saying comments are one?
Okay.
No, I'm saying if you go to the first one that you had on the front.
Mr. Farley, I interrupt you for 2 seconds before we get to Fun Friday. So I need your attention. Thank you. So I know I returned to Judy's paragraphs. Definitely go through the feedback because that's the point of it, to get the benefit of that feedback for this next paragraph. That being said, as you know, from the deal on my shoulder, I did not get one section back before this morning, which means I need to amend the schedule. And if I'm amending the schedule for one class, it's for every class. I don't just do it for one class, it's always for everybody. So I will have your drafts in your folder, comments on your drafts. I did not get to that because I'm still finishing Judy's paragraphs by noon tomorrow at the latest. Your Christianity paragraphs, I'll have those fully commented on by noon. Your paragraph will not be due on Tuesday. Tuesday, I will introduce Islam in class, but your homework is to work on the paragraph. Wednesday, at the beginning of class, is when you're going to turn in your final Christianity paragraph. So if for some reason you didn't put it in your writings in progress, please make sure you do that, because I'm going to go to that after school today, print them out, so I have them this afternoon, tonight. Wednesday, your homework for Wednesday will be to finalize the paragraph. Again, we will continue talking about Islam, but we're going to look at some primary sources. We're going to start this unit a little bit differently. And obviously, I will update the syllabus because we will not have a quiz on Islam on Friday. It will be the following Monday, actually. Is that clear? Yes, no.
Before you look at our
Christianity paragraphs.
yes, well, can we edit it?
Yes, I will probably not print it. Our basketball meeting is at 4:15. I will probably not print it till 3:30. So if you want to edit it between now and 3:30, yes. But after 3:30, I'm going to print it. Yeah, print it. Also part of my comment, your quest, which you just took on Monday, will be returned on Tuesday. Or we get into bonus points, but you'll get it back on Tuesday. The one you just took on Monday, this past Monday.
Wasn't this supposed to be?
Yes. Any questions, or can we go to Fun Friday?
Fun Friday.
I will update the syllabus, but everyone's generally clear as to what is happening over this long weekend. You're essentially looking at your comments on the Judaism paragraph, looking at my comments on the Christianity paragraph, looking at your peers' comments, You essentially have 2 nights of homework to really finalize the paragraph.
Oh, so we don't have like another assignment, sorry, we don't
There will
have
not be another time while you work on this paragraph. So although I will introduce Islam, it will be purely in-class material stuff,
Okay.
not extra reading on top of the paragraph. Okay, Fun Friday's topic. If you were an animal, what would you be?
Oh, easy.
Sleep all day.
That's such an
Dolphin.
easy one.
Why? That's easy for you guys.
Yes.
That's a hard one for me.
Actually, I don't know. I think I'd be a giraffe. That's kind of
Do
random.
we get some reasoning? So we've had this
I don't
lazy
know.
sleeping.
It's like, you just have like a really long neck and it's like kind of cool and you can just like chill.
It chills us.
Well, I think that's what giraffes do. They
Chill.
chill.
And then, have you seen that giraffes like can fight with their necks?
Yeah,
They
they're
like
like,
whip their necks
"Wah."
at other people.
I have not
It's
seen that.
it's pretty funny.
Is that a YouTube thing? I can look
Yeah, look up giraffes neck fighting.
I will look it up.
Oh my god.
Miss O'Connor, you said yours is easy.
A dolphin.
Because
Why?
it's my favorite animal and they get to go wherever they want in the ocean and they can jump out of the water. They just have a good life. Or it'd be something that
I'd be a
flies.
dog.
Dog.
Yeah. You go all over the place? I feel like
Yeah. Or like a,
dogs,
what are those big whales that are like,
They sleep a
oh, whale
lot.
shark? I would be that.
they're loved.
A what?
They're loved.
Okay.
Look. Oh my god.
Oh my goodness.
Their neck.
That I've never
I've
seen.
never seen.
I've never seen that
Not even close.
A penguin or penguin. That's
Hey,
a good
I was
one.
gonna-
Dude, you have like a whole list.
I think gotta be a
Other
lion.
people,
I'd be like a lion or a
like a
tiger.
lion?
I'd be like a lion and tiger.
Lion and a
That's from,
Maybe a
uh,
rhinoceros.
Oh my god.
Why a lion? Why? Any particular reason?
Wait,
Because they're really cool.
We go to
Okay. That's a good enough reason.
My brother told me that when I have a bed head, I look like a lion. So. Yeah.
Well, thank you for letting me observe your class today. So, as you reflect on the lesson, today's lesson, how productive do you think your students were?
I think they were very productive because what I saw a lot of was after students took the time to make comments, was them talking to their classmates, explaining their comments and making suggestions, and them talking through why they're making a suggestion.
How will you know that this process, this peer editing process works?
I think one of the ways that I don't know right now, I see them being productive, but to say that it works because of that is not an accurate statement. Later in the year, when we go to write essays, when it's a much bigger piece of writing, that's when I can really see it because of the quality and the content and the quality of their comments at that point. Right now, they're just dealing with what is a paragraph? How do I structure a strong paragraph? How do I support a strong paragraph? How do I incorporate good evidence into the singular paragraph? But soon it's going to be a much bigger piece of writing. And this process really gives them a good basis so that when they look at that essay, they don't get overwhelmed. They take it paragraph by paragraph, and that they're used to that. That's really what they're used to doing.
Right. One thing that I noticed about the class, your students, is that they knew the process. They got into peer editing. They got the worksheet that you gave them. How do they know what to do? How did you establish that routine with them?
So this was their second writing. For their first writing, I gave them back my feedback on their drafts first so they can see how I approach feedback. So I put all positive comments or commendations, I call them, on the left, and I put all constructive comments or recommendations on the right. So that was how I give feedback, and I gave that to them. We went over my feedback and they saw a couple of samples, so that the next day I then put them in these writing groups, and I said, you're going to be in these writing groups for 2 assignments. This was the second assignment. So that they would know that they're going to get to work with this group of people for two times.
Yep.
And I talked about why a writing group, why peer editing, and what it helps you do. And I said, I understand if you don't feel confident that you're really helping your peer. And I said, that will come with time, but it really is helpful because looking at someone else's work automatically makes you think about your own work subconsciously, and then when you go to look at it consciously, you automatically are just able to be a little bit more critical because you have something to compare it to.
While going through the process, a couple of your students would turn over and ask you a question, and you said, hey, that's exactly why we refer back to the videos. Can you explain a little bit about what the videos were and sort of the goals for the videos? Because I think it's amazing.
So the parts of the skills of the paragraph structure for them is a topic sentence, evidence, and conclusion sentence, if we were to take the big picture. So I created 3 YouTube videos, 2.5 to 3.5, maybe 4 minutes on one of them, that really talked about what does a good topic sentence look like, gave them a sample, talked about the weaknesses so that they would hopefully be able to avoid certain errors. And then of course they watched it as part of their coming to class, and we talked about it and they had questions, so that they were doing it outside of class and they could think about it and they could come in class, we could go right to samples, was number 1. And then number 2, it's permanent. So I can always refer them back to it. When we move to the essays, they will watch a couple of longer videos, one on thesis and counter arguments, which is just a little bit more advanced. So
It's such a great idea. You emphasized today, obviously, peer editing, and I want to know, just in the process of writing, why did you choose to make peer editing such an important part of the writing process?
So I think just for writing's sake, it's a good process. That's not enough for me, but I just, at that minimum level,
Yeah.
I appreciate it and respect it just as a writer myself. For them as 9th graders, one of the things I try to emphasize in the class is that, so part of the reason why I call them by their last name is that the class environment is about everybody. What they have to say is just as important and valuable as what I say, and what I say is not any more important than what they say. And one of the ways to reinforce that is peer editing. They have value, they are able to look at things and give constructive and positive and negative feedback, and that there's value to that. And so that's one of the ways to reinforce it. The other reason why it's really important, and you might or might not have heard or seen this, is that they will try to ask me a question sometimes.
Yep.
And I will say, I have no problem answering the question, only if you've already asked somebody else. And so again, it makes them go back, and sometimes they still come back,
Yeah.
but sometimes they resolve it themselves and we move on. So it's, again, reaffirming that their voice is important and that they are able to have a voice.
I'm glad you brought that up. That's actually my next question, because you do sort of detach yourself from the peer editing process. You want them to work together. Why do you think that was so important? Why do you make that sort of conscious decision to say, hey, ask each other, not me?
So there's 2 reasons for that. One is they know they're going to have my feedback, and mine, of course, is going to be much more detailed, and they know that that's coming.
Yeah.
So that when they're really giving their peer editing, it's not theirs versus mine.
Mhm.
It's their feedback for their peer. And then what I say is that now you have my feedback and you have 2 peers' feedback, and it's all the same feedback that you now take and produce a final product with. So that's, again, to really help reaffirm the importance that they have on their voice. I also just, in general class, if you were to come to a normal class, I don't answer questions.
Right.
I love questions, but I redirect them to these scholars in the class. So asking me a question is great, but I don't answer the question. I say, there are 10 other qualified scholars in here, and let's let all of us talk about it versus just expecting me to get an answer.
You created these peer editing worksheets. What is your focus in the worksheet? What are you hoping for by using this worksheet?
So the worksheet really mirrors the rubric. So it's really, again, it's just also affirming what I do in terms of when I grade with the rubric. More to be transparent, and so there aren't any surprises. The worksheet is organized by the things that are most important to me when I grade the rubric. Thesis is the most important thing, or a topic sentence. Their evidence, And so if you go through the worksheet, you see that's really what it really starts and focuses heavily on those same things. And so then when they receive their rubric, it really works hand in hand together.
In looking back at the class and the way it went today, when we discussed in our pre-conference, you said, I want to do peer editing, I want them to work with each other. Do you think you met your overall goal and objectives for today's class?
Yes. So one of the goals was to have them do it in general, and I think that's what we've talked about. One of the other goals was that this was their second time doing it, so that there would be a level of focus and almost a rhythm of we're just doing what we normally do. And I think that was definitely the case. There was very little who's my partner. They really just knew because we've done it. Now we will switch partners for the next writing assignment. Again, so they can hear other people's perspectives on their writing. But I think as an individual class, it was definitely productive that my goals were met.
If you can do anything, redo anything from the class today, had the opportunity to reteach the class, would you do anything differently? Or any aspect do you think would change?
Sure. I didn't do, one of the things I've been thinking about doing, but I actually haven't done it, is to do an exit ticket where kids just rate either their own process, how they felt about providing feedback, and or if they've had time to start to begin to process their peers' feedback, how they view it. That would also give me maybe an indicator as to their perception of its effectiveness, and that would be something I think could be helpful.
This is the last question that I have about the class. You finished the class with Fun Friday, which I think is a great way to finish it. Why do you do that? Where did that come from?
So Fun Fridays is something, this is my 6th year here, this is my first time doing it. And I'm doing it because, so in my years here, I've taught different numbers of 9th graders. This year is my first year teaching 3 sections of 9th graders.
Yeah.
And one of my observations about my sophomores versus when I did the junior senior electives is that my 9th graders, and I really have often attributed to them being 9th graders, it takes a little bit longer for there to be the type of comfort that I'm used to establishing in rapport with a class.
Yeah.
My 10th graders, it happens very quickly and very symbiotically on its own. Same thing with my juniors and seniors, but my 9th graders, I feel there's a little bit more tension or anxiety, or they're really stressed about the grade exactly, and it inhibits the comfort that I would like the class to get to. Now, that doesn't take away from my high expectations, of course.
Yeah.
And so I think sometimes my high expectations for them as new 9th graders or new kids new to the upper school maybe makes it a little more difficult. So this Fun Friday was a way for them to get to know me, because I answer the question too.
Right.
But also a way for them to get to know each other and really make it essentially a part of our class dynamic that is once a week, if we have time, we're taking a break to share something about each other. And some of them have sent me suggestions, which I've used. And for a lot of them, they look forward to it.
I just want to go through what I saw in the class and my sort of bigger recommendation. We've discussed this already, but what I saw from the class is that there's a natural comfort level that exists with you and your students. I think they enjoy going to your class, which can sometimes be difficult for a 9th grader taking history that usually doesn't go together, but they seem to really enjoy going in there. Second, and again, I mentioned this before, students are very aware of the process and very aware of your standards. And so much so that if they don't think they reach a standard, they actually turn to you and ask you questions. But I think it's incredible that students can go to their class, print out their papers, sit down and say, okay, we have to get through this, and actually get to work and know and understand sort of what they have to do and what the major goal of it was. Some of the stuff I saw, you can control. Internet stuff, obviously. We always have an issue with that. We always have an issue with internet here, so I know that part of it as well. For my suggestions, I think I have 2 bigger ones. One, I think if they had a structured amount of time to do the peer editing, I think so the lapses that could come can go away. And two, I know you're very detached from the process, and I don't know if it was my presence there, but walking around and really making sure they're doing their own tasks is
Right.
my big one. But overall, in my teaching, I wish I would have thought of this. The way you do peer editing, starting from the very beginning, establishing those goals and the norms, I think was it's just amazing to see ninth graders do that. And you do have I asked you about your class, and one of the things you said is there's maybe one or two kids who are still going through maturity levels, but ninth graders who are on task and know what they're doing. I mean, it was amazing to see. I wish I could use that in my class. I could have started earlier in my class and be so structured the way you are. So anyway, thank you for letting me observe your class. And just on another note, if another observation were to happen in class, what do you think you would want to focus next in terms of your teaching in general? What do you think would be something that you're
editing?
Oh, just in general, just in your own teaching, if I were to observe your class again, what would you say, all right, next level for me, that's what I would want.
So if we're sticking with the ninth grade class,
Yeah.
I would say that if you were to come back, and again, the rough estimate is usually mid-January, heading into February, where we have that longer stretch without any breaks,
Right.
that they really have taken much more ownership of the class, where, again, we have conversations because I ask questions, they answer them, and then they respond to each other.
Yeah.
But I'm still, my ninth graders, still initiating conversations, and I hope that by January and February, when we walk into class, really, I just go, well, what did you think about the reading? And someone really makes the comment that starts the conversation versus my question starting the conversation. And that is something that I hope we get to. So I've been asking the questions to get them hopefully not realizing that that's what we're doing,
Yeah.
but that by January,